Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pat Doherty podcast with me, your host, Pat Doherty. Thank you very much for dropping in. Thank you very much for returning. This is episode 4. I've got a couple of dates for you that I got to run quickly. Friday, the 27th of June, I'm opening for the great Billy Darcy at the Comedy Store. He's doing an encore show for his Sydney Comedy Festival show. I will be the opening act. I do not know how he will follow me, but he will try his best. So if you're in Sydney, make sure you grab some tickets for that. Friday the 4th and Saturday the 5th of July, I'm hosting the Bondi Festival Comedy Gala at the Bondi Pavilion. Each show has 4 comedians. The lineups are unreal. I handpicked these comedians myself. So make sure you check out the shows when you can, either the 4th or 5th, but attendance is mandatory. So go and check that out. Friday the 11th of July, I'm opening for Frenchie down at the Theatre Royal in Hobart. That should be unreal. I do believe that's probably already sold out because Frenchie is massively popular. But if there are tickets available and you are watching this right now, do grab a ticket now. I'll be opening that show for the great man French. Wednesday, the 23rd of July, I've got a solo show at the Newcastle Comedy Festival at the Newcastle Comedy Club. I love performing in Newcastle, so make sure you check that out. And do me one other little favor. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow the podcast on Spotify or iTunes. And if you're on YouTube, get some comments going, get some shares going, get it all happening in the comment section. I do appreciate it. Now, let's get to the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pat Doherty podcast with me, your host, Pat Doherty. It's a pleasure to be here once again. If you're listening for the first time, hello and welcome. I appreciate your attendance. If this is a return listen for yourself, I appreciate that even more. If I can ask you to do, if you could do me a small little favor, I want you to recruit some people, okay? I need this to be the biggest podcast in Australia. I need to be knocking on the door. What I really want to do is just be knocking on the door of the biggest podcasts around the world, around the globe. I want to see some of these podcasts around the world, and I want to say, hey, Joe Rogan, I can see your downloads. I know your downloads. I can see your statistics on YouTube, and guess what, brother? I'm right here. But that's being competitive. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that down. I'm reading a book right now, written by Rick Rubin. It's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And I literally just read a chapter about how competition is unnecessary in the creative arts. And I'm very sorry about that, but I did get quite excited because I'm a very excitable person. I'm a very excitable person. And when I get excited, it can lead to me doing and saying things that I don't necessarily mean, okay? But all I'm trying to say here is if you are a new listener, thank you very much. Welcome. I do appreciate you coming through. If you're a return listener to the podcast, I also appreciate that. I actually appreciate that kind of even more, that you believe in the podcast and you're here to listen to it and you engage and you enjoy it. So thank you very much. I'm just suggesting that maybe we all share the podcast with some new friends. If we can all have one mission today for this episode is to share this podcast with one friend that you do believe would enjoy it, and then we can go from there and we'll grow together. We'll make a family. I want this podcast to be a family. That's all I'm trying to say. Because we all need our own little corners of the internet where we feel welcome. And guess what? You're welcome here. You're extremely welcome here. You're welcomed with open arms. And you're embraced. As long as you get other people in. So I appreciate you coming through. I'm drinking a coffee. I've just been having maybe 2 coffees a day for the past 2 days, and I must say I've been sleeping a lot better. And I know you're hearing me say that, and you're going, Pat, well, that's obvious because 2 coffees is even pushing it, and it's 1:30 p.m. right now, and this might be an excessive time of the day to be having a coffee, but 2 coffees a day right now seems to be sitting really well. Sometimes I've hit maybe 5 a day. And I know there's some crazy coffee heads out there that would be having like eight espressos, etc., etc. That's not really my kettle of fish. But 2 coffees is really hitting me, and I love to have iced long blacks. That's the drink of my life. I think that's the drink that I consume most. And it's beyond coffee. It's beyond water as well. I drink more iced long blacks than I do water. And I'm trying to change that because I'm doing the 75 hard right now. The 75 hard. The 75 hard is a challenge that includes one of the necessities is you must drink 3.8 liters of water a day. But anyway, look, we've got a lot to talk about, and these are just a couple of little notes that I've been thinking about and been vibing about, But I am drinking coffee, and I'm enjoying it, and I hope you're enjoying your coffees if you're listening to this in the morning, this podcast in the morning, or if you're listening to it whenever, That could be a bit of a scattered start, but anyway. I touched on it just now. I'm doing the 75 hard challenge right now, and let me give you some context as to what the 75 hard challenge is. It's a challenge that you participate in for 75 days in a row, and the rules are relatively simple. I've got them on my phone here. Let me get them for you, and I can highlight what is necessary of participants every single day. So what you need to do is one 45-minute workout, okay? Then you need to do another 45-minute workout, but it has to be outdoors. You've got to take a progress picture so you can, I guess, sort of see your improvement throughout the 75 days, which does seem a little bit vain to me, to be honest, that they include this. But, also documenting things is massively important. I can kind of understand that, Maybe we can just sort of say, we've all done the 75 hard, and then where's the evidence? The evidence is the progress pictures. It does feel kind of embarrassing to, I take my pants down, I leave them around my ankles like I'm a 5-year-old taking a piss at a urinal at their primary school, which is what I used to do. I don't know if that's still in fashion with the younger kids nowadays, but when I was a small child, 5 years old in kindergarten, 4 years old in kindergarten, the move was to drop your dacks all the way down to your ankles and then, hit the steel with the urine, as it were. So my progress pics, I'm still in the undies, the dacks are by the ankles, shirt's off. I might still be wearing a cap because I've got very fair skin and I've got to say sun safe, and I take the snap, and that's the most embarrassing part about the challenge. You've got to do 10 pages, you've got to read 10 pages of a non-fiction book. Like I said, I'm reading The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin, and thus far, massively enjoying it. Massively enjoying the book. It is Rick Rubin. If you don't know who Rick Rubin is, he's a music producer from America, famously behind some of the most monumental hip-hop music of ever, basically, as well as other music genres, I believe. I don't know too much personally about him. I've listened to him on podcasts and shit like that, but I've probably got to do a bit more of a deep dive. The thing is, he's a massively creative guy, and that's what I love to be around. That's what I love to be inspired by. Creative people, creative things, creative activities, creative landmarks, creative food. I love it. If it's creative, it tickles my brain in a way that I enjoy my brain being tickled. Okay? So, I'm reading that book right now. 10 pages a day of that. I'm powering through it. I'm also, one thing that I'm liking from the 75 hard, and I will admit this, and I'm very embarrassed by it. I'm massively embarrassed by it, but I am a sort of a TV show, fall asleep to a TV show kind of guy, and or fall asleep while scrolling kind of guy. And I know that that's bad for you. Don't get me wrong. I don't even like the fact that that's who I am right now. I really don't. I do not like that. But the 75 hard, it's sort of resetting my brain. And last night I fell asleep reading a book, which is how I want to fall asleep. I want to be making passionate love to the point of exhaustion, and then fall asleep in a sweaty mess, a sweaty heap. And I want to be doing that with, my girlfriend. But that's too vulgar. Hey, look, that's vulgar. Forget that I even said that. But, if I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm trying to be honest with you, that's how I like to fall asleep. It's either that we make passionate love, then I fall asleep. Or I want to be peacefully reading my book and doze off into a gentle slumber. And the 75 hard, I must say, 10 days in, I'm 10 days in, and I've been active every single day. I've been achieving my goals every single day. I got to give credit to the 75 hard. It's sort of reset me. And I'm reading before sleep, man. Does that make me better than you? It doesn't make me better than you. I'm here as a guiding light that we can all use to proceed to get better. Proceed to get better. It's a little Trumpy. Anyway. The next is drink 1 gallon of water. Now, I believe that this is a. I just got distracted, by the way. I'm going to try and remain present on this podcast. I just got distracted because I got interviewed for Survivor recently. I will get right back to the 75 hard challenge thing. I just got. I got a message. Okay, sorry, hang on. I am flustered. I feel flustered because I just saw a message on my phone. I applied for Survivor a couple of weeks ago. And the person that I applied to Survivor with has just gotten back to me. So we could be watching in live time right now. I'm not going to look at that message now because if I got rejected, I'll be devastated and I won't want to finish the podcast. But if I got it, I'll be elated and I'll probably call a bunch of people and I won't finish the podcast, right? So the message is in the back pocket, ready to be read. But that's very exciting. And if I do end up on Survivor, you have seen me receive the message live on the podcast recording right now. Okay, anyway, sorry. Let me get back to detailing the 75 hard because I just needed to acknowledge that. I didn't want to have that in the back of my head. I just wanted to talk to you because you're my friend. If you're listening to this podcast, you're my friend. The next step of the 75 hard challenge is you got to drink 1 gallon of water a day. Now, I didn't realize that the 75 hard challenge was an American thing until I read that you have to drink a gallon. A gallon being a measurement used in American society. But, I mean, what the hell does that even mean? It's the imperial system, and I think it's probably the one... In American culture, it's got to be one of the stupid components of American culture. And I'm a massive fan of the country and the culture overall, you know? A lot of people, as soon as you talk about America, they start going, oh, yeah, well, it's bad because of this, it's bad because of that. Everywhere's bad because of this and bad because of that. I'm going to defend America. How about that? I'm going to defend America. Every single time you bring up America in conversation, why are people so quick to be like, oh, that place is shit? It's because you don't like Donald Trump. Just say that. Just say you don't like Donald Trump, and that's fine. You don't have to like Donald Trump, you know? I'm not the biggest fan of Donald Trump, but it doesn't mean that I can just go, oh, I hate America. America's great, dude. I do stand-up comedy. That's an American thing. I have America to thank for that, you know? I like basketball. That's an American sport. I like that. Thank you, America. You know? I also like a bunch of fucking movies that I've watched that have all come out of Hollywood. So thank you, America. It's like, why is it, it's just like free reign on America. I just think that it's bullshit. It must be so annoying for Americans. You know? It must just be like, oh yeah, hey, you bring up America one time and everyone's just like, oh yeah, that place is fucking stupid, blah, 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 blah. And you as an American just must be sitting there being like, yeah. It's uncomfortable. But one thing, America, that you need to change is the imperial system. Let's be very honest. I'm a big fan. I've just defended you and I would happily do it again. But I'm just saying, let's get rid of the imperial system. Come and join us on the metric side of things. It's easier. A gallon? What's a gallon? A gallon? Like based off like a drum? A gallon of, you know? Who the hell is using this? It's not the Wild West anymore. You're a civilized society. For the most part. Little side dig. You're not getting away that easy. Just use the metric system. A gallon is 3.8 liters. It makes more sense. Let's use the unit of 10 and move forward together in the future. As friends. Next is follow a diet. Follow a diet. Everybody has their own little diets. This is how do I say this? One of the, God, I mean, I didn't even really know how to, I know that you'll know what I'm talking about when I say this, but I just don't know how to vocalize this correctly. And I want to be delicate about this. I truly do. One of the things I just do not understand in society at the moment is that everybody is a master dietitian. Everybody is a master, exercise physiologist. Everybody is a guru. Everybody is a health coach. Everybody is a motivational coach. All of this kind of shit, right? And when you talk about diets in particular, everyone's like, oh, well, I told somebody one time, oh man, I would love to get a toasty. And for an hour and a half, the person was giving me the negative effects on your body that white bread can have. I don't care. Give me a ham and cheese and shut the hell up. You know? I'll tell you what's more negatively impacting my body and my soul and my entire existence is your stupid fucking nagging about white bread, you dumb idiot. Let me eat the toasty in peace. But that said, because I don't know, I'm not going to be one of these people that pretend to understand diets. Oh yeah, and I understand that you're meant to do this, this, and this. I've just broken down this entire health project, this 75 hard challenge, into the most simpleton terms I possibly can, which is don't eat shitty food. That's my diet, basically, and I'll expand on that slightly more, and do lots of exercise, which is regimented within the program. So, but my diet would consist of this. Basically, it's this. It's no simple carbohydrates. And that term is even too complex for me to use. And when I use it, I feel like a dickhead, right? But that basically means for me is no fucking candy and no fucking lollies and no fucking chocolate. I'm just trying not to eat that shit. Okay? Then, no fast food, which is very hard for me because I've been touring with Frenchie and I've been on the road doing my own stand-up comedy shit. And I don't like to eat before the gig because, yeah, maybe it's something a little bit of nervy energy and then it messes with my stomach. Or maybe it's just like psychologically I don't like to go up onto the stage heavy. I like to be light on my feet. You know what I mean? I want to be light on my feet when up on stage to be able to deal with hecklers, deliver my material, riff and crowd work. Okay? So that means that when I finish these gigs, quite often the only stuff that is available to eat is fast food, right? But I know that it's bad for me and I know that I've been consuming too much of it this year. So I'm just limiting that. Even if you're like, well, McDonald's has chicken wraps, which is what I generally get when I go there. Yeah, I understand that they got chicken wraps. But even though I'm getting the chicken wraps most of the time, and that's it, usually, let's say 1 out of 4 times I'm getting the fries with it. 1 out of 4 times I'm getting the McFlurry with it. 1 out of 4 times I'm getting another burger on top of the fucking wrap, you know? I'm not perfect. I never claim to be. So I'm just saying, cut it all out straight away, bang. And then the last part of my diet is that I'm not having fried food. Not having fried food, because I just don't want to, you know, I just heard once upon a time that like oil was bad for you, like fried fucking shit was bad for you. So I'm just going to try to not eat that shit. And also, dude, I think hopefully that's going to help my skin out because like my face is pretty decent, but I get some cystic acne, dude. And when I feel more secure about myself as a human being, I'm sure there'll be some unreal pimple popping videos that I'll be able to release onto the internet based off the disgusting pimples I get. But maybe the fried food and the diet and all that kind of shit is going to help me out a lot. The last thing is no cheat meals, which I guess is associated with, it's sort of just really hammering home the diet component of the 75 hard challenge, and no alcohol. So I'm 10 days off the booze, and I've been boozing, I like to take about 2 months off a year from drinking just to keep myself in check, but I don't do drugs, and I don't really have I don't have really that many vices. I don't have any vices. I like to drink. Don't do drugs. I'm not a sex addict. And I don't know what else. And I've done gambling. I like gambling, but it's not something that I'm driven to do neurologically. So you just got to check your vices sometimes. And I like to keep off the booze as much as I can. But when I booze, I like to booze hard, have a good time, you know. So 10 days off the booze right now, I am enjoying that component of it as well. And I'm looking forward to the next 65 days of not boozing, which is going to be a good thing. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing the 75 hard challenge. And yes, I understand that we also live in a society where people like to talk about their health challenges and like to talk about that kind of stuff. And I do see a lot of hatred for that on social media and online in particular. People are like, oh, this guy's talking about doing a half marathon. Oh, this guy's talking about doing a marathon. It's like, yeah, I'd prefer him talk about that than the bullshit fucking drug chat that you can hear sometimes, you know? Or drunk chat. Oh man, I was so drunk the other day. You know how often the people that are criticizing people that talk about healthy stuff a lot, you're probably having repeat conversations where you're describing times where you were drunk or fucked up. At minimum every single week. So you're doing the same thing. You just don't like repetitive conversation. You just don't like the subject matter, but repetitive conversation, if we were to break it down a little bit further as to what you're talking about, is what you're participating in. It's just the content of what you're repeating is slightly different. And arguably worse for society. So why don't you just let these people talk about healthy stuff when they want to talk about healthy stuff? Maybe why don't you indulge yourself in a little bit of health and vitality, bruh? It could be good. I tell you, it won't be bad. It could be good. So I'm happy to be doing the 75 hard. And I'm happy to be talking about doing the 75 hard. And that's taken up a little bit of time. I apologize, but I'm getting used to podcasting every week. So these first couple episodes might not be absolutely brilliant. I'm enjoying this. Oh, and shout out Ben Mack from Yeah Mad for the new microphones. I do believe that the sound quality will be through the roof this episode, specifically because of Ben Mack, who is the youngest looking member of Yeah Mad, but also the oldest. He's Asian. That does help. He looks after himself, which does help. And he's genetically gifted, which does help. But right now I'm talking about saying thank you for the microphones. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, okay. So there's been a couple of things going on. Went to a dinner for... I'm going to go through this list of stuff I wanted to talk about. I try and take notes throughout the week about shit to talk about. But then sometimes I look at the notes, I'm like, well, there's not really that much about that. Plus, I'm also on a pretty tight schedule, you know? I've been talking for 20 minutes. I only got 10 left, give or take. So I want to talk about, I'll speed through a couple of things. I went to a fancy dinner with the Yeah Mad crew on Wednesday to celebrate a couple of people's birthdays. It's Sath's birthday on tomorrow. Shout out Sath. Fucking love you, brother. It was Timmy's birthday the other day. Shout out Timmy. Fucking love you, brother. I think it's Matt's birthday coming up as well. Or it's already been... I can't really remember. I think there was a third birthday, but I can't remember whose it was. But shout out that person as well. Lily's birthday's on Friday. My dog Lily's birthday's on Friday. I'm very excited about that. She's very excited about that. I don't want to talk about it too much because I've got some surprises for her. You know what I'm talking about? That was unreal. We went to Bop and Tone in the city, and that was good because all the food I could actually eat it, you know what I mean, considering the dietary situation. The next night I went to dinner with Billy Darcy, Freddie McManus, Rona, Neil, Joe Antar, the Young Guns, all the Young Guns bar Georgie Boy, and it was an Italian restaurant, so I couldn't eat anything. I just had to watch the boys eat these most delicious looking pizzas you've ever seen in your entire life, while I had burrata and tomatoes. And the most fucked up part is I chose the place. You know? So that's on me. I have no one to be mad at except for myself on that one. Sometimes, you know, you're your own worst enemy. And when it came to Italian food while I was doing the 75 hard, ding, 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 that was me. I was my own enemy. But that was nice. Me and Bryce, who does the, he's the videographer for Yeah Mad, we got a cab home because we live in the same area, you know. You don't need to know where it is, but if you ask me, I'll probably tell you. I just don't, maybe Bryce doesn't want that information out there. Anyway, whatever. We got a taxi home, and dude, we had the craziest taxi driver ever. I mean, there was some vulgarities that this guy was talking about that it was hilarious. You know, he was talking about having sex, he was talking about doing drugs, all these ridiculous stories. And it just reminded me that is the reason why that's the only reason you should get a taxi. The only reason you should get a taxi over an Uber is the taxi doesn't have the rating system, right? So all the Uber drivers are generally on pretty good behavior because they don't want to get less than a 5-star rating, you know? Taxi drivers, they don't give a shit, dude. You pay the money, it's their car. They're going to do whatever they want. And when Bryce and me were coming home from this dinner last Wednesday, this dude, I think he was a Malaysian guy. Not that that means anything, but it was, you know, I haven't seen or met a Malaysian person in a long time, so it was just nice to be around him culturally. He was just saying the most incredible stories you've ever heard in your entire life. This guy was talking about drug-fueled sexcapades that he'd been on. He was talking about what race of people have the most, stinky genitals. And he said that with some bravado and some level of, deep knowledge, which was exciting. And I just haven't had anything like that in an Uber for a long time. So that's all I'm saying. Taxis, shout out taxis. Taxis are coming back a little bit. You should always, every fifth ride, I think you should be in a taxi. That's what I'm trying to say. Just so you can get that sort of chaotic taxi driver energy in your life, because it's enjoyable. It truly is enjoyable. So that happened. Filmed a couple commercials, a couple of ads with Kind of a Big Deal. The Kind of a Big Deal lads, they're great. There's some content creators and comedians, online comedians from New Zealand. If you haven't seen their stuff, check it out. They're really lovely lads. So that was nice. My old manager and boss, Jordan McAleady's, got absolutely busted on Abby Chatfield's Instagram, which was hilarious. I got an inside scoop, and I'm still friends with Jordan, even though he dropped me as a comedian. And even though he fired me as an employee, I still, I like the guy, so I won't blast him too much. But it just, you got to be so careful online, dude. He clearly got sent Abby Chatfield's Instagram story by somebody, and he obviously was replying to the person who sent it to him, but got it mixed up and replied to her story, right? Now, what he wrote, the Instagram story was about a piece of paper that her boyfriend Kelly Holiday had written a message on it for her. Something like, "I love you forever, you're always going to be mine." Maybe something along those lines. And he said, she's so blind, she can't see that he is going to lock her up in a basement one day, right? And that probably makes sense to the person that sent it to him. They might have a back and forth about their relationship, But once you send it directly to Abby Chatfield, you just look crazy. It looks insane. It looks like you're belittling the relationship that she's in, And that's not a nice thing to do. It's not a nice thing to do. I'm laughing because it's fucking embarrassing to send it directly to Abby Chatfield. But the thing is, the next Instagram story, she scrolled up and Jordan had hit her with a real sort of like sleazy message. And that was hilarious to me. Obviously, you can be like, oh yeah, well, you shouldn't send messages like this to women on social media. And of course, I could not agree more. But you're talking about my old boss and my old manager sending this inappropriate message to probably the most volatile person on social media. To me, that's where I found the humor. And also his message was insane. He wrote, "Nice tits, bravo." Jordan, the fuck were you thinking, dude? Nice tits, bravo is one of the most insane things ever. Nice tits by itself, insane. Who are you? Like a dude from Delhi? An Indian guy that's just like red hot in the DMs? And I know that sounds kind of racist, but in fact, I've seen multiple DMs from multiple Indian people, from multiple members of the Yeah Mad cast, which is that exact message. Or it's nice bobs, basically, right? But then the bravo is also insane. No one says bravo anymore, dude. It's crazy to say bravo about tits, I thought that was funny. I mean, I hope he hasn't got too much of a backlash of it. You're my friend, Jordan, so that's why I feel comfortable joking about this. And I called you after the circumstance. So it was Handsome Charlie's birthday on Thursday. We went to indoor golf, the golf simulator. That absolutely rocked. Shout out Charlie. He's having a baby with the gorgeous Sarah, due on the 1st of next month. So that is absolutely unreal. Then we had shows. Me and Frenchie, I was opening for Frenchie down in Wollongong. Now, Frenchie is a hometown hero. Down in Wollongong, obviously. So it was a big show, 500 people at the Illawarra Arts Centre, and everyone was just pumped to see him because he comes from there. It was hometown hero coming home, performing his big show, And the show went well. It was a little bit, they were very rowdy, to be honest. It wasn't a little bit rowdy. They were very rowdy. They were yelling out a lot, and it's annoying when people yell out when it's in the middle of a bit, like in between bits, I'm prepared to just sort of interact with the crowd because it's like, sure, that part of the joke, my joke is done here. I've got a bit of free time to play around until I get into the next part, so I can meet you. Let's dance, baby. And I know my brain is working 1,000 times faster than yours because you're drunk, and my senses are heightened because I'm on stage and I have a microphone. So if you're going to try and heckle me, I'm always going to beat you. Tom Cashman once upon a time told me that, and I fully agree. But we can also develop a funny repertoire together. So it's an exciting time for both of us. But there was a lot of people just sort of yelling out in the middle of jokes, and that was annoying as hell. But Frenchie crushed it. Had a great time. I had a great time. I got some clips from that show that I'm going to post relatively soon. But after the show, this lady came up. I'm going to just quickly check the time here. Oh, yeah. I might just have to... I'll tell you what, we're going to pause momentarily, and then we're going to get right back into it. Sorry, we're back. We're going to go just a little bit over half an hour with this podcast, but my camera cuts out at 30 minutes, so we're going again. So the show in Wollongong was fantastic. Now, the meet and greet was where it became kind of insane. Because Frenchie's audience, and if you are one of Frenchie's audiences, and you found me via that, and you've come to one of the live shows, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not speaking out of line. It's like these people came to party, baby, and Frenchie's in town, so shit's going to get a little bit wild, you know? And so a lot of people came out. There was one dude, fully shaved head, except for the biggest, most well-manicured mullet I've ever really seen in my life. And the terminology for that is a skullet. And he got Frenchie to sign the top of his head, which was a wild operation, you know? There was a lot of women that were saying, hey, Frenchie, you said that I can peg you, which he denied, you know? And obviously, I believe he probably said it once upon a time for comedic effect. And honestly, I do think it's hilarious. But there was a lot of that kind of chit chat going around. A lot of sort of penetrative conversations were had, to the point where there was this one young lady. She came from Canberra, and I'll say, and I'm not one to speak out of line about teeth because my teeth aren't necessarily the most fantastic. I think they're unique for me, and I like them personally. But classically, they're not really. They're not on the walk of fame. You know, they're kind of. My two front teeth are kind of always arguing. My two front teeth are always in just different rooms of the house, you know? My two front teeth are kind of just sort of like, they're not quite divorced parents, but they're separated, you know? Anyway, but I would say that she had, I would say that she had meth mouth. Those teeth was kind of all over the place, and they were they were different colors. It looked like the LGBTQ I plus flag if you left it out in the rain, kind of, you know, and I mean that respectfully. And she came up, and she was with 3 other guys, and everyone was relatively sweaty, and I would say sticky, in fact. And but everyone was lovely and nice, and maybe it was humid in the seats that they were in the air conditioned theater, but you know, everyone else seemed fine. Maybe they were on drugs, hence the teeth. Who knows? But she propositioned both of us. Frenchie predominantly, of course, and then me sort of in a secondary capacity. She asked if we would be interested in joining her on OnlyFans, you know, and what I assume she means by that is sort of having sex with her on camera. And that footage would have been put up onto the platform OnlyFans for people to watch and maybe pleasure themselves while they were watching, potentially. Or use it as sort of instructional manual. Frenchie couldn't have denied her faster, but the thing is that I'm sort of curious about this stuff, and I always like to make money as well. So I said to her, look, how much do you make a month on your OnlyFans? And she said she made about $250, right? Which is quite sad. So I said, I'm not too interested in that. But if she was making, you know, I think maybe if she was looking at somewhere in the $50,000 a month mark, and she wanted me to join her OnlyFans, I wouldn't do it. You know, I'm currently spoken for, very happily so. But if I was a single guy and a beautiful woman maybe wanted to have sex with me on her OnlyFans, it would probably I would need to get a cut of a substantial amount of money, you know. Plus, there would have to be some other rules in it as well. Like maybe I could use another person as a replacement for me to have sex with that person, but they were going to be sort of like my stand-in. So, you know, it was just a wild show with a lot of wild people, and that was that. And then I woke up the next day and we were filming Yeah Mad at the studio over there, and I had to go from my house over to the studio, and that's about a 45-minute type of travel. I don't know what kind of word I'm meant to be using there for. It's a 45-minute journey. And I made it all the way to Town Hall, and I'm about to head north to the studio. And I thought these people were, I didn't know that this was a real thing. I didn't understand that these people existed in real life. I thought it was sort of maybe AI on the internet. I thought maybe it was just, maybe it happened in real life, but just in really derelict places like Adelaide, Toowoomba, relatively unstable, chaotic places that are generally reserved for some of the worst. I'm just kidding. Actually, I kind of mean that about Adelaide, but I've never been to Toowoomba, so I speak out of line there. And whatever. I didn't know that furries were a real thing. I thought that they were a joke, and I thought it was a myth. And I thought it was the internet sort of playing a joke. I didn't realize that people dressed up as dogs. I understand that furries are people that dress up as dogs. I don't know what you call people that dress up as deer, So I only have the one piece of terminology, and I'm just going to refer to this person as a furry, but you need to understand that she was dressed up, or they were dressed up as a deer. And I also don't know the gender of the person. And I don't know if a human dressed up as a deer has a gender, So I'm in town hall and I see this person, and it's a Sunday morning, and I'm sort of thinking immediately like, well, that's not really anything I'm interested in, God bless this person, but it's not something that I'm going to be involved in. And then I realized, this is a bit of a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've seen this deer person, and I don't know how many deer people there are out there in the world. So I said, let me get a little selfie with this person. Because honestly, the costume is pretty fantastic. They've done a great job with it, And so I say, excuse me, I don't know. I'm not very fluent in deer. I don't know how to speak deer, and I never have been, and I'm not willing to learn. So I sort of, in English, I approached this person, deer, and I said, can I get a selfie with you? And luckily for me, they understood English. And so we took a selfie, and honestly, in that moment, I kind of bonded with this person. It was like, this person was walking around kind of cautious, they know they're being judged all the time, but they like to do what they're doing, and it's a hobby and it's a fun thing for them, so that's nice. And then I think me asking to get a photo, it was sort of like, because I'm a big person, I think they thought maybe I was coming over there to be mean to them, and I'm not a mean person, and I would never want to be mean to anybody. We're all children of God, and I think we're all beautiful and lovely, truly. And me getting that photo felt like society was kind of accepting this person, and I like that. And then what happened next, I wasn't really prepared for. They reached into their little. These people are always wearing vests. I don't know why, but they reached into their vest and they said, "Can I give you a trinket?" And I'm not joking. You weren't there. That's exactly what they sounded like. "Can I give you a trinket?" And I said, "Okay." And they opened up their palm, which is strange because there should have been a hoof. But they opened up their palm, and inside the palm was tiny little bottles. And I mean tiny little bottles with a cork on the top, and inside was a little paper crane. And all of them were different colors. Now, I know what you're thinking. And yes, I responded the way that you would have responded. And I said, "Listen to me, dear person. Are these things cursed? Be honest with me." And the person said, "No, they're origami." And I maybe thought that was fighting words for a second. I'm not going to lie. But then I realized the words were delivered in a peaceful manner. So I thought, okay, that's fine. And I selected a blue one. Okay. And that was the end of that story. Now, I don't know if I'm cursed. I don't know if I'm blessed. But I met a dear person. And that's the story of when it happened. I don't know, man. Okay, listen. That's the end of the podcast. We've gone over time, but I don't mind it. It's 40 minutes. I can do that. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to ask you once again if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, if you could follow the podcast on Spotify or iTunes or whatever platform you are listening to the podcast on. If you are on YouTube, please leave me a comment. Please give us a little share. I do appreciate it. My name is Pat Doherty. Until next week, I'll see you later.